Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about a rather underlying but very important character in the Halo universe that may have a secret role in Halo Infinite. We're going to talk about Offensive Bias, a Forerunner AI that played a major role in the Forerunner Flood War and may have an underlying role in Infinite. But before we go into Offensive Bias's role in Infinite, let's give a little backstory on who Offensive Bias is and the troubling story on why it was created. When the war between the Forerunners and the Flood was violently raging, the Forerunners deployed Mendicant Bias, a contender-class Forerunner AI that was tasked in defending the Forerunner Empire against the Flood. During the war, the Forerunners captured a Flood gravemind that claimed to be the last precursor, known as the Primordial. Mendicant Bias was tasked with interrogating the Primordial, a conversation lasting 43 years. This interrogation aimed to uncover possible weaknesses of the Flood, but the interrogation took a turn that would greatly accelerate the downfall of the Forerunner Empire. Throughout the interrogation, the Primordial convinced Mendicant Bias that the Flood was the next step of evolution, and that it was on the wrong side. The talk ended up corrupting Mendicant Bias with what is known as the Logic Plague, and ended with Mendicant Bias joining the Flood against the Forerunners. This turning of sides caused a quick downfall in the already losing war for the Forerunners, as their most powerful AI was now commanding the Flood army against them. This caused the Forerunners to create another contender-class AI aimed to combat Mendicant Bias. This new AI was known as Offensive Bias. This new AI was given command of the small number of non-Flood infected ships, and eventually, the remaining Forerunner fleet retreated to the Greater Ark, the Forerunners' last bastion for life in the galaxy. The Forerunners suffered major losses at the Greater Ark, losing the nearby Omega Halo and much of the remaining life in the galaxy that was stored on the Greater Ark. The Battle of the Greater Ark also resulted in the Greater Ark being quite literally shattered. This caused the Forerunners to move to their last hope, Installation 00, the Lesser Ark. Offensive Bias, in accordance with the ISO Didact, began the sequence of firing the Halo Array, as it was their only chance of ridding the galaxy with the Flood for good. In a measure to buy time for the priming of the array, Offensive Bias led their remaining forces to the fleet of Mendicant Bias. This fight did not look like it would go in the favor of the Forerunners by any means, however, as Mendicant Bias's forces outnumbered Offensive's by nearly 436 to 1. But Offensive Bias was not looking to win the fight. He was just looking to use strategy to buy time for the Halo Array to fire. After nearly 8 hours of strategical combat, with Mendicant Bias taking his time to destroy the Forerunner fleet to almost mock the Forerunners, the Halo Array fired. The firing caused the majority of Mendicant's fleet to be destroyed, and the fight was now looking in the favor of Offensive Bias. Offensive Bias then showed its superior strategy and methodical lethality by using its now empty ships to destroy the remaining ships in Mendicant's fleet by self-destructing them or opening uncontrolled subspace rifts. This quick action caused the battle to end in Offensive Bias's favor within only 2 minutes. After the fight was over, and the galaxy wiped mostly clean of sentient life, Offensive Bias was given a new deployment by the Grand Edict. The firing of the Halo Array showed that there was one species that was not affected by the firing, which brought much concern to the Grand Edict and the remaining Forerunners. The species known as the Zalanin, or Endless, were brought to the Silent Auditorium on Installation 07. The Silent Auditorium was made as a place of judgment, acting as a courtroom, a place of execution, and a prison. The Zalanin were unable to defend their species in the Silent Auditorium, and were imprisoned in silexes by the Forerunners to never be let free. Now, I know what you may be thinking. How does Offensive Bias tie into the Silent Auditorium and the Endless in Halo Infinite? Well, there are a few times throughout the campaign where the AI is either directly or indirectly mentioned. Firstly, The legendary ending for Halo Infinite provides a lot of information on the imprisonment of the Endless and who was to protect this prison. The legendary ending provides a conversation between the Grand Edict, a Forerunner that we do not know much about, and Despondent Pyre, Zeta Halo's monitor. Despondent Pyre tells the Grand Edict that the Silexes and the Silent Auditorium have been prepared for the Endless, and discusses how the Endless believe they are being brought to Zeta Halo as a means of help for their species. The Grand Edict says that the Endless must be contained due to their immunity to the Halo array. He says they are doing this to what he claims maintains order and preserves the Forerunner's truth. Eventually, many years later, recorded in an audio log, Despondent Pyre reveals what the Forerunner's truth really was.
I am close to deciphering the runes. Perhaps I will learn who left them. My makers, the Forerunner's greatest fear was understood to be the great parasite. The Flood. A scourge that almost wiped out everything. I now believe this hypothesis to be incorrect. Their greatest fear was losing their power. The fear of a master who would become a slave.
The Grand Edict then goes on to say that time will forget of their existence, but Despondent Pyre rebuts that time is not a construct they can control. This may mean that some event, such as the banished excavations on Zeta Halo, may uncover this truth, and the Forerunners may be powerless to stop it, which, in this case, is true. When Despondent Pyre says that she cannot guard this prison alone, as she is the monitor for the entire ring, the Grand Edict says that she won't, and that the order has been given for offensive bias to be deployed to safeguard this prison. Now, this new information may have some implications on a few instances throughout the campaign when the Master Chief and the weapon were being helped by an unknown source to keep the Endless locked in their prison. The first instance of this is within the Silent Auditorium, when the weapon tells the Chief that something is helping her break the Harbinger's seemingly sentient connection to the place where the Endless are being kept. Here's the clip.
It's switched again. It's found something.
What?
No idea, but I doubt it's good. Wait, there's something else here. Something's helping me.
Another instance of this comes right after the Harbinger is defeated by the Chief, as the already unstable Silent Auditorium starts to crumble around the Chief, seemingly blocking all possible exits. However, before the Spartan gets crushed by falling rocks, a portal opens from an unknown source. This confuses the duo for a moment, but after a little back and forth, they go through the unknown portal to escape from the auditorium. This lands them at an unknown place on the ring, safe from any immediate danger, where they quickly get picked up by Echo 216. Now, in my opinion, I don't think the place where the Chief got spit out is just a coincidence. Keep in mind, this is just theory and speculation, but I think this monument is the place that Despondent Pyre discusses in an audio log, which I will play for you now.
Enemy within. That is the meaning of the runes carved into this monument. These runes predate me. Older than even the Forerunners. Time moves forward and back again. I now see rings inside of rings. Great circles everlasting. Without beginning or end. Endless. As I say their name, I feel foolish, uninformed, misled. And I'm afraid.
It is possible that offensive bias, or whoever opened the portal, took Chief there for a reason. It may be a bit of a wild theory, but I think that the monument that says enemy within could be the place of which the Endless are buried, and could also be the same place that the Chief stands at. Now, it could be any other monument, but the one that Chief gets spit out at may have significance, as it seemingly is the most complete of the monuments we see throughout the campaign. However, the audio log does say that these runes predate even the Forerunners, which leaves a lot up for speculation on who put it there and why. But moving on from that, I believe that we may see offensive bias in a future campaign DLC. A name for a seemingly new Halo game was recently trademarked that is called Halo the Endless, so we may see some interaction with offensive bias in the process of trying to stop the Endless, as they have been found by Atriox. So that does it for today's video. Please let me know what you guys think about this possible future for offensive bias down in the comments, and also what you think about this theory. Please subscribe, as I put a lot of work into these videos and would very much appreciate it. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.